So they put the microphone in his hand. You know it's not working.
Right. He went back, and when he went back, he calls me up and he says, "Listen, I'm telling you straight up, I'm cutting a deal with these guys. You want to be part of it?" And I had already been out almost 5.5 years, and I really had no desire to go back. I had my fill. I had started doing a lot of viral stuff involving the video games and UFC, and I have my own agency here in New York City, and I got spoiled. I was home with my kids every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really enjoyed that time at home. So I said, Brock, I'm going to take a pass on this one. I just don't feel it. I'm not. They're not going to want me. I'm not going to want them. We're not going to get along. Mm-hmm. So Brock goes back, and then he does that 18-minute segment with John Laurinaitis on the microphone. Mm. And
because he was originally Laurinaitis was his mouthpiece, right?
Right. And Brock comes back into Gorilla.
Sorry, I have to laugh at that.
There's nothing wrong with John Laurinaitis being somebody's mouthpiece. I don't know why you're laughing. I always thought we were tight edge. I've been an ally of yours.
That got a belly laugh.
Giddy Edge.
Giddy Edge.
Edge is tired today. Yeah.
So if you watch the tape, Brock goes back to Gorilla with the microphone in his hand. Because he was so mad he didn't put it down. And he goes back into Gorilla, and as legend would have it, and I've heard this from both parties, Vince says, "That wasn't exactly what we were looking for." and Brock puts the mic down and right in front of Vince and says, "I don't think you should ever put a microphone in my hand again." And Vince says, "Well, what the hell are we going to do?" And Brock says, "Call Heyman. That's what he does. He's my Jew." and walks out of Gorilla. So within that week, I had agreed to go and do a voiceover. I did the Punk DVD. I did the Austin DVD first. Mm-hmm. And then I did the Punk DVD. And then I was doing a voiceover for the commercial for ECW unreleased matches. Mm-hmm. And I had fallen into this pattern of doing these favors, these one-offs, as long as I could tape them in the studio on Monday or Tuesday, because no one's ever around.
You wouldn't have to see Vince.
Wouldn't have to see anybody. Hey, I had heat with everybody. It wasn't just Vince. I couldn't imagine anybody would be happy to see me walking in the doors. So as long as I can go on a Monday or Tuesday, I'm in, I'm out, I'm stealth.
Right.
I get the check in the mail. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
So they call me, and Brock buzzes me. He says, "Hey, listen, just so you know, I mentioned your name to Vince," and I was like, "Okay." After seeing that promo, I kind of understand why, and I still wasn't really interested. But I was supposed to go the next day to do the voiceover.
Were you still watching the product at the time?
100%.
Okay.
How could I not?
Right.
Of course. And it's not only just because he was on, I never stopped watching it. I've always enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed it more once I was gone than when I was embedded in it, because I'd become so tired of it and so burned out. It became such a personal fight between me and Vince. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So once I was gone, I could enjoy it again. And it became a real hot-button issue. Once CM Punk did the whole Paul Heyman guy shtick, with the
was
pipe
his famous
bomb promo.
pipe bomb promo.
Right. Once he did that, I became relevant in that world again. Mm-hmm. It became, listen, anybody can walk down the street. If you were on TV in the 1970s, someone's bound to recognize you. Hey, man, I remember you on TV, But I wasn't relevant anymore. I was an old guy. I remember you.
Right, you weren't current.
Absolutely not. And then CM Punk does the Paul Heyman guy routine, and all of a sudden I'm relevant again. When are you coming back? Mm-hmm. Hey, come on, that leads to something. Hey, you're Paul Heyman, and he's a Paul Heyman guy. So I became a relevant topic again. And in an age of social media, it's just something that never died. So they called me on Tuesday morning and said, "We're having production problems. Could you tape this voiceover on Thursday?" Now, you guys know this as well as I do. They don't have production problems. There's no such thing as a production problem in that studio. And if they did have a production problem, everyone would get fired, everything would be thrown out, and they would airlift a new studio over to the studio, and they would be ready for you that afternoon. These guys are on top of their game, state of the art. So I knew right there something was up. And lo and behold, once I got there, there was a message, "Hey, could you come by the tower and take the service entrance so nobody sees you?" And the pitch was,
And you're going to meet with Vince.
no, I didn't see Vince, so I walked into Gorilla the night I returned.
So who did you see?
Triple H.
Okay.
I saw Triple H.
And the pitch was?
And the pitch was, WrestleMania is in New Jersey next year. It's right across the bridge from your house. Not that I'm suggesting that you walk or that you, or that that you drive yourself, but you and Brock have this really good relationship, and he's only here for SummerSlam and WrestleMania. Hey, listen, it's 2 pay-per-views. Do a couple of TVs walking in, do a couple of TVs walking into Mania, do Mania right here in your hometown, and you guys are really good together. Well, how'd you like to work with it? And boy, it was a very convincing pitch. Mm-hmm. So I took it, and of course, once they know they have access to you, the most PG way I can say this is a hard pee-pee has no conscience. So, we got Heyman? Put him on TV next week. Yeah. So instead of 4 weeks into SummerSlam, I'm back on TV in May. We'll extend this thing, and so.
And now you're coming on to represent Brock when he's not even there.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And it worked. And I really, the truth is, they kept me hidden all day as they're prone to do.
Right, because you came back as with Punk, not with Brock.
No, I came back with Brock.
Okay.
I came back. I came back actually without Brock. I came back when Brock. I came back to announce Brock had quit.
Gotcha.
So we're in Greensboro, and they fly me into Raleigh. So that nobody sees me in the airport. I mean, I was nobody knew. I wasn't on Kevin Dunn. And when Kevin Dunn doesn't know, man, and probably they didn't tell Kevin Dunn because he probably would have bitched about it. That, don't bring that fucker back. Oh, fucking Heyman, which is good. I say pee-pee because I want to be. Oh, my God. I mean, nobody knew. Vince knew, Stephanie knew, Triple H knew, I knew, Brock knew.
I always like that, though. A couple times I've done that kind of being hidden away. I mean, you came back at the Rumble hidden away. It's always kind of it's kind of fun, right? Like you're like a secret, right?
So I was, and they told Punk an hour before the broadcast and sent him out to the bus to see me so that he could tweet it.
That's right. It's just a secret or whatever. Yeah.
Because he was the first one to hit 1 million followers, and they wanted in on that social media action. So they snuck me in, and then Punk tweeted it literally during the commercial break that they're sneaking me into Gorilla. Mm-hmm. So when I got into Gorilla, and literally they're playing the package of Brock breaking Triple H's arm, I just walk over to the curtain, and I'm just waiting to hear go. And I'm hearing, you got to go say hi to Vince. And I'm thinking, let me say hi to him after I do the promo, oh man, because who knows, I mean, I don't know what his feeling is, he's just, God, we'll just tolerate him for a couple days, So, okay, so I start going to him, and he comes around the thing. He goes, "Give me a huggy," I'm like, oh God, this one's gonna hurt, because when he hasn't seen you in a while. He squeezes you. He's so strong.
Still strong as an ox.
And I'm such a puss, and he just goes, and he squeezed me with my feet off the ground. He goes, "God damn it, it's good to see you." And I'm thinking, no, it's not. You're not happy to see me, and you're hurting me. And I said, "You're hurting me." I have to guzzle it on my promo. And he, puts me down, thank God. And he, slaps me on the back, and man, that hurt too, and I'm trying not to sell it. Oh, it was very much on purpose, and thank God it wasn't Stephanie hitting me, because her slaps hurt
Worst
more.
slap in the business.
So I just went out and did my promo, and I come back and he goes, "See you next week." I was like, oh God, this is going to become a weekly gig, I just thought I was announcing that he's quitting. We come back before SummerSlam. What happened with Punk was, we did SummerSlam, and I wasn't supposed to come back until Brock came back 4 weeks before Mania. Mm-hmm. I figured they'd tag me in probably in January just to start talking about him. But I was gone 2 days, and they called and they said, want to put you with somebody else too. And I wasn't interested. I was like, nah, you know what? I don't want to water this thing down. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'm only here, because you guys wanted Brock to have a mouthpiece, and we're really good together, and it's a really good chemistry, and I don't see anybody that I can work with.
It's always the danger, too. Something works, and then it does get watered down. Like a TLC works, now there's a TLC pay-per-view, and it slowly loses its effect, or it can.
Hell in the Cell. Yeah.
Right. It's a very, very, very tough tightrope to walk. And I also didn't see anybody that I would have that kind of chemistry with, or have a totally different chemistry with, and can actually play a different character than I do with Brock. And literally the name was whispered. It was just like, what about CM Punk? Man, I'll see you in Chicago. You got it. I mean, I didn't even have to think about that answer. It was like, wow, because number one, we have a personal relationship. Platonic, I assure you, but it's a personal relationship. Number two, we had worked so well together in OVW, in putting together.
You were one of the guys that was his first. You pushed for him and let the office know how good he was. Because at first he had a lot of heat for having his own opinion and having confidence like I had and like you had and like all of us did that ever made it there.
Well, I was told to fire him.
Wow.
Oh,
why?
Yeah. Because they didn't want him. I was told finish him up.
Because he didn't look right or didn't like his work?
They didn't like him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was an OVW, and I used to get memos. By the way, finish up Punk, and, he'll get his 2-week notice once you finish him up.
Was that memos from Triple H or Vince? Or
no, it wasn't that
just
high
the
up.
power, like Laurinaitis or whoever?
Yeah. That office at that time.
Yes.
And sometimes, just from, office managers or secretaries. By the way, there was a meeting, and this person wants you to give Punk his notice, finish him up, And
Jan, the makeup girl, sending you a memo.
I mean, it was like how Austin got fired, by Bischoff on an answering machine.
Yeah.
When it was, and the first message was from Janie Engel to call in to get fired. So I wouldn't fire him. I said, that's not my job. My job is to build talent, not to take talent down. You guys give him his notice first, and then I'll wrap him up on TV. And no, you do it. No, you do it. It was the most ridiculous, game of not me, you. Oh, no, not me, you. That I've ever played. But I mean, we really had a great working relationship. We had really great chemistry. I understood his character. I knew how to get stuff out of him. It was just one of those things that clicked. So having the chance to work with him, and here he was the WWE champion at the time, and trying to establish himself as a top guy and as as a heel too. I just figured, man, we could really play with each other and just wing it half the time, which is what we ended up doing. So then I ended up starting in Chicago, which was the week after Brock left, took his hiatus. I got put with Punk, and we were off to the races with that too.
Well, and it's interesting too because you got two guys that can talk on the mic. Usually it is the instance of Brock where it's like, well, we'll use Paul. Paul can get the message across, but you guys could both do it, so it makes for an interesting dynamic.
It's the classic Nick Bockwinkel, Bobby Heenan, where they're both amazing talkers, and they've just made such a great duo.
Yeah.
Well, with Brock, I always consider with Brock, I consider myself as my father. My father was a trial lawyer from the Bronx, and that's legitimate about my old man. My father legitimately was a trial
Richard
lawyer.
Heyman.
Richard Heyman.
I remember all this. I remember your address. I remember your dad's name. It's crazy.
Tricky Dicky Dangerously, and Shyster from the Bronx. Yeah. And I used to watch my father when I was a kid. I used to watch him perform in front of a jury. So I always consider myself, when I'm with Brock, I'm his lawyer. That's where I get the name the advocate, because my father always said, Your Honor, I'm only an advocate. I'm here to protect my client's interests, and that's how I play it with Brock. With Punk, here's a musical reference for you, and nobody listening to this is probably old enough to remember this. He's Morris Day and I'm Jerome. I always thought they were the greatest duo.
Oh, we.
Girl,
I got to know you.
I was the biggest fan of Jerome because Morris Day on his own was pretty damn good. But man, when he had Jerome backing him up and just shake, Morris Day shakes his head, Jerome shakes his head, everything, and everything that Morris Day would do, Jerome would compliment, So, and again, you guys can relate to it. Your audience is probably sitting there going, this guy is old.
What are they talking about?
Who the hell is Jerome? Is it New Jack? New Jack was with Morris Day. Probably stabbed Morris Day. But it was. That's how I envisioned it. I was like, whatever Punk is going to do, I'm just going to compliment what he did. I'm his backup. I'm
the garnish.
I'm the garnish. Exactly. Yeah. It was a different role, and I liked it because it was a different role. It was a totally different character than I played with Brock.